Hello, and welcome to another spooky news episode from Spooky Ventures. It's May 17th, which means we're getting pretty close to the first day of astronomical summer. That also means we're that much closer to autumn. That's a special time when the rest of the world gets on board with those of us in the spooky tribe. So, I don't know about you, but I always look forward to that time of year. Before we get to the actual news, I need to get the usual announcements out of the way. First, remember everything Spooky Ventures, and especially this YouTube channel, is supposed to be interactive. So please interact. You can do that by subscribing to this channel. You can also do it by liking and sharing our videos. Leave a comment or even send us a message. We're always interested in hearing from you. Next up, remember, if you want any more information about any of the things I talk about, there are two places you can get that information. First, you can stick around until after I'm done talking. You'll find all the source and more information URLs as title cards at the end of the video. You can also find all of them in the details section of this video. With all that out of the way, let's get to the news. We're going to start with some real-life spooky news. Would you want to have a conversation with a deceased loved one, even if it wasn't real? Well, there are some Chinese companies offering that service. You give them the likeness of your loved one, recordings of their voice, and information about their lives. They feed all of that into an AI, and you can have conversations with a simulation of that person. Those who use it say it helps them to grieve. Personally, I think it's pretty creepy. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Leave your thoughts in the comments on this video. Hey, it's that interaction I'm always talking about. From there, let's turn to some spooky merchandise news. And we'll start with Phantasm. I am a big fan of the Phantasm franchise, and especially the first film. So it's exciting news that Funko has a Funko Pop of the Tall Man coming. Making it even cooler, the metal sphere or ball can be seen in his hand. It looks like a great piece of collectible merchandise for Phantasm fans. If you lean more toward the TV series of Chucky, there's a cool collectible coming for you too. Nika has a Chucky Holiday 7-inch action figure on the way. It's supposed to be shipping in September. It will come with interchangeable heads and hands, along with all kinds of cool accessories. It seems destined to help turn the holidays toward the horrifying side. A more old-school horror collectible is coming early next year. That's when Infinite Statues will be unleashing a new Dracula diorama on the world. Featuring the Christopher Lee version of the vampire from the Hammer films, the statue will have the undead monster facing off against vampire hunter Van Helsing. It's expected to ship between January and March of next year. I led things off with a story about Phantasm. We're going back to that franchise again, but this time with book news. Fiction, now that's spelled with a PH instead of an F, is a new book of stories in the Phantasm universe. It comes from Don Coscarelli, who is the man who brought us Phantasm the movie. It was released a while ago in hardcover, but it's now available in paperback and e-formats. It's a great way to get some new looks at the Phantasm universe. That brings us to the world of real movie news, and we'll lead off with a new film that's coming based on Hans Christian Andersen. The Little Mermaid will be hitting theaters. This isn't like The Little Mermaid you're familiar with. It comes with an R rating, and it's a live-action horror movie. The release date hasn't been announced yet, but the movie has a trailer and a rating, so it seems that it must be in the pipeline pretty soon. A film with a release date that has changed is Terrifier 3. The movie, which was originally scheduled to be released on October 25th, has had its release date changed to October 11th. I'm sure the whole releasing in spooky season thing has something to do with that release date. Personally, I think it should have been released in December because the film is going to take place at Christmas time. I don't know, maybe they want it in theaters in October and in home release in time for the holidays. Speaking of home releases, Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire will be getting its physical media release next month. Coming out in Blu-ray and 4K UHD Blu-ray, it will be available on June 11th. A movie coming to theaters this fall, well, not to theaters, but a movie coming to TV this fall, will serve as a prequel for a 1960s horror film. Apartment 7A is meant to be a prequel to the 1968 supernatural horror movie Rosemary's Baby. Apartment 7A will be a Paramount Plus release and is expected to hit the streaming network this fall. One final bit of movie news is a sad piece. Genre film producer and director Roger Corman passed away. He was 98 years old. While he might be gone, his classic films will live on, as will his influence. Well, that brings us to the end of the actual news for this time. Before I get to our calendar, I'd like to remind you to stick around for the source URLs at the end of this video. Also, if you missed it, we had a new episode of Spooky Movie Time with Scary Gary go live earlier this month on the 3rd. The 3rd episode should hit this YouTube channel on June 8th. That brings us to the Spooky Ventures calendar. We list dates that should be of interest to fans of all things spooky. This time around, we've just got one date on the calendar that I should mention. That's the opening of The Strangers Chapter 1, which hits theaters today. Well, that's all for this time. I'll see you here sometime next month with more spooky news. In the meantime, remember, spooky is a lifestyle, not a season, so always keep it spooky. Spooky Ventures is the home for spooky content and spooky merchandise on the web. Check it out today at spookyventures.com. And remember, always keep it spooky.